No one has ever become poor by giving. That is a quote by Anne Frank. Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Welcome to episode 149. The topic of this week's episode is business and philanthropy. My guest this week is Brimstone. Brim is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Hound Comics, Inc., which is part of Hound Entertainment Group. He has had a successful and rewarding career spanning well over 4 decades. Titles include professional wrestler, radio host, professional podcaster, actor, voice actor, author, musician, philanthropist, food critic, horror model, and comic, animated, children's book, video game hero. Hi, Brim. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Oh, man, I got to tell you, finally, Brimstone has made it to Trina Talk with that beautiful smile staring across from me from miles and miles away. And it's an unbelievable smile. And I'm so glad to be here with you. I've heard nothing but amazing things about you. And I said, I need to get on with Trina. How do I make this happen? And here we are.
Here we are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with me. I love it. Like we were talking, and before the show, it's like, okay, you have a bio that's very extensive. You do a lot of things, but here on Trina Talk, how I started out, I always ask the guests to tell the listeners who you are and what made you the Brim that you are today.
So, I really have done a lot in entertainment in terms of everything from acting to pro wrestling to comic books to this to that to the next thing. And I've also done a lot and accomplished a lot in the world of business. It's just and I think that a little piece of everything that I've done has shaped me into the person I am today. But I started literally in entertainment at age 5. I was on Sesame Street, I was on Romper Room, and my parents at the time were divorced. And it wound up becoming a little bit of a back and forth between my mom and dad, to where they they didn't necessarily see eye to eye on when I should be going to auditions and when I shouldn't be. Those are my days. Well, I have to take him for this, and that's kind of So that being said, long story longer is it cut my acting down short at the very beginning. And then, I kind of moved along and started getting involved in other things after that. When I got a little bit older, I started getting involved in like comic books and so forth. And, I had wanted to be this big artist and, thought I was going to be a big comic book artist, which I became a comic book character. And, it did come full circle. The guy that I was, reading all his stories, Stan Lee, he wound up becoming a friend years later, and I became the celebrity spokesperson for his foundation. So like all these little things, you know what I mean? Kind of shaped who I am as a person, Brimstone in general, Brim in general. I am just a turned up volume of Will, which is my real name. Nobody calls me that except my wife when she's really mad at me. But anyway, at the end of the day, just a little bits and pieces. I got a lot from my mother. I get a lot from my father. I get from a lot of the people that I've met along the way. And it's been a long journey. I'm 46. Actually, by the time this airs, I'll be 47. and I've had there's a lot packed into those 47 years. So I'd like to think that everybody that I've met along the way has kind of helped to shape who I am and where I've been and where I'm going.
Wow. So I have to ask, where did Brimstone come from?
So it's a not too funny of a story. It's kind of, lame, to be honest with you. But there was reasoning behind it. So when I was training to be a pro wrestler, we we were about an hour from where we trained. So we were on Long Island, and we would be driving in to Queens, which was about, like I said, about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the traffic. So, every time we go in, you're not supposed to think of gimmicks and so forth when you're first starting. You're supposed to be thinking about learning properly, and when the gimmick time comes, the gimmick time comes. But I'd already been in entertainment. I toured the world of music before I got into wrestling. I'm always thinking business, branding. So I couldn't help but start thinking of something ahead of time, because I didn't want to just throw something against the wall and see if it stuck. So back and forth during these long trips, I had lists of names, and I started with probably 1,000, couple thousand names, whatever it was, and every week I'd get lower, less, got down to 500, down to 100, down to 20, down to 10, and Brimstone always made the cut. And when I was looking at the last 10 names, I said, that one, it just kept jumping out at me, and I wanted a name that would be memorable and marketable and something that was going to stick. And over 20 years later, it's absolutely stuck, which is a positive. And I've been able to take it, market it, and put it into many different areas of, whether it's, out in merchandise or, licensing and this, that, and the next thing, influencing. I do a little bit or a lot of everything. So it has served me well. Now, the funny part about it is when I actually wrote it down, and I remember writing it down and giggling about it, because for those of you who don't know, I'm actually Jewish, and Jews don't believe in hell. Brimstone is the character is a guy from hell. It's just a gimmick, guys. It's just a gimmick. I'm not into hell and all that jazz. It's just it. So the funny thing is I'm playing a character who is a guy from hell, and I don't even believe in hell. So it's kind of like a joke in itself, which people, once they hear it, they go, oh. But then other people, Trina, I got to tell you, people judge right away. Oh, he must be a Satan worshiper. Oh, I don't know. It's just the name, and it was a gimmick. It was a joke. But what do you call it? But I love the name. And I am synonymous with the name at this point. And I couldn't think of myself as anything else. I barely even think of myself under my real name anymore. Nobody calls me Will. You know what I mean? Like I said, the only person that does is pretty much my wife and maybe a couple other people, and that's it,
Wow. Great story. It was funny because I'm looking through your bio and I'm going, man, this guy has done like everything. So my mind is just going everywhere, because I'm like, okay, how did he start this? How did he do this? So you went from being a child actor, and I loved Romper Room. That was like my jam.
The magic mirror.
Yes, it's like, so you go from that to, you said you wanted to be an artist, comic books, and then you said you've done, been in a band and traveled. Then how did you get to wrestling?
So when I was in the music industry and I was, playing in bands, I got to tell you, look, I love music, and I wish I was still playing. I was a drummer, and I'm still a drummer at heart, and I'll still sit and get behind a kit anytime I have the opportunity, which is, rare at this point. But what happened is when you're touring and when you're recording with people, and you're dealing with not only one, but you're dealing with four other people, and or more or less, depending on how many people are in the band. But I didn't want to be in a 5-way marriage anymore. It's hard enough to be in a 2-person marriage, where you have two different people that are coming together and making a union, and hey, look, I don't know if you're married, but I'm married.
Used to be.
Love my wife, been with her. Yeah, well, and so with almost 20 years, I've been with my wife, and as much as we love each other, of course, there's going to be arguments or disagreements and so forth. Now, amplify that with 5 people,
right?
It gets a little crazy. So the timing just happened to be right, and I was involved in a lot with music, and at the time I was working for the Village Voices sister company, which was a pet project of Andrea Stern, which was the daughter of Stern, who owned Stern Publishing, the Village Voice. So it was the Long Island Voice, and I was working there, and I was doing a lot with the music and the clubs and the bars and blah 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 blah, and I was very high up in sales there, and they had asked me one day. It was quiet. There was a lot of people out, and they knew that I was into wrestling, and they knew I was into photography. So, because I kind of, like I said, jack of all trades, I kind of do a little bit of everything, and they knew I was a published photographer too. So, they had asked me if I would mind filling in for a photographer, that because they didn't have anybody to go and cover an event that this one of the writers was doing. Bill Jensen was his name. So Bill Jensen, he was like the son of some big sports guy, and he was going to do a story on wrestling, because there was an event taking place at a Knights of Columbus down the road from us, from the corporate office, and it's pretty much a convention. You know what I mean? So it was like a small wrestling convention, and I went in and I agreed. I said sure. Well, hell, I get to go and hang out with some wrestlers, and because I wasn't a wrestler at the time, get to hang out with some wrestlers, take some pictures, have some good conversations, and make a couple of bucks. I'm in. Why no? So I went down and wound up meeting some people that wound up becoming good friends later on in life. In the business. But I walked in, and we were going around, and he's doing all these interviews. So they knew who I was there with. They knew I was there in a professional capacity. And one of the people that was there was the Iron Sheik. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Sheiky is very well known. And he looks at me and he says, you look like you could be wrestler. I train you. I train you to be wrestler, and blah blah blah. And and all of a sudden his agent Eric Sims overhears it. Eric comes over, he starts talking to me. It's like, oh, you can come here, blah blah blah, blah. And you can go to Atlanta, and he'll train you in Atlanta, or you can fly him out, and he can be here, but you'd have to put him up here, and it'll cost this. I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like I was not ready for all that. It's Bret Hart was there, and Bret overheard me having the conversation, and we had met earlier, and again, I didn't know the guy, we just met there, but he knew I was there in a professional capacity. He had said to me, he called me over, and he said, listen, I heard your conversation. If you're really interested in getting involved in the business, here's my email. If I could be of any help, to put you in the right direction, just let me know. I was like, wow, thank you, I appreciate that. We went our separate ways, and a couple months later, I had a wrestling publication, and I was looking through it, and I saw the ad for the Long Island Wrestling Federation. The doghouse was being opened, and I said, well, I'd like to go check it out. So I emailed Bret, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this. What should I look for? And he gave me pretty much an overview to see what I should look for and what I shouldn't look for. And, I went down with a couple of friends, and everything seemed pretty much legit and on point. And I messaged him back. He said, it all sounds pretty good. Best of luck with it. And here I am, over 20 years later. And I actually had bumped into him, funny enough, in San Antonio, where I'm going to be in San Antonio, or I was at San Antonio at the beginning of this month, signing for Six Flags. But I was there at San Antonio Comic-Con, their first event, and I had the opportunity to meet up with Bret again. I hadn't seen him in years, and I went over and I thanked him. I thanked him for what he did, because and I'm sure he had no idea who I was and didn't remember me. Or I mean, he didn't let on to that, but I'm assuming he didn't know. But I said to him, look, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have my career, and I greatly appreciate that. And I thanked him for his direction, and that was it. I mean, I hadn't had his email address in years. It was an old school AOL address. Once I lost my AOL account, that was that for that. And it was, but for me to have the opportunity to go and actually have the conversation with him and thank him meant a lot to me. Right. And that was another full circle moment to my career.
I'm listening to you, and I love what you're saying, because I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. Yeah. So, doors open, doors close, and, people say, it's luck. I don't say luck, but so what I always like to ask people is, because it seems like you've had a lot of successes. You've done, like you say, you're a jack of all trades. You've done a lot of things, and it seems like you've been successful at doing those things. But talk about your journey in doing these things. Like, tell the listeners like some of the really tough times that you've gone through to get where you're, because right now you're a CEO, you have your own entertainment company, your own business. But as you were doing your different things, from progressing from child actor to musician, then you went to being a wrestler, to now you're, a philanthropist, you're a business owner. What are some of the struggles that you went through navigating all of that?
Well, I mean, look, the first things first is that, everybody would like to make money. And a lot of people don't realize how much time, effort, and blood, sweat, and tears go into everything you do. And if you're not putting in 200-300%, guess what? You're not going to go anywhere. And a lot of the time, especially, when people are first coming up, they, one of the things that really hindered me at the, early ages is I wound up getting, I got a big head. I had an ego, and I needed my ego squashed. And I think that hindered, certain things that I could have done. But I think that, as you had mentioned, certain things happen for a reason. I think that it was there for a reason. I think I needed to have that ego at the time, and I think I needed to have that ego squashed. And I think that helped me take a couple steps back, get a clearer vision and view of the future, and then be able to take 10, 15 steps forward. That being said, one of the things that has really, the biggest thing that's really screwed me up, in terms of, or caused an issue in any growth patterns, is not even necessarily me. It's, well, I guess my judgment, but it's people that I have brought on or brought underneath, brought in underneath me, or had under my wing. When you bring in toxic people, you have to eventually deal with that toxicity.
Right.
And I've had a couple of very toxic people over the course of my career, in multiple different areas, because everybody wants what you have. When you work hard for it, they don't realize why you got it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't see that you're working, 300%.
Right.
They think, oh, well, I deserve that. I want that. So they think that they can take it from you. But they're not you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, somebody can't step in and just be like, oh, I'm Trina. It doesn't work that way. And the same thing goes for me. You can't just step in and think that you're going to do Brimstone work or get Brimstone accolades when you're not putting in the work. So there are a lot of people that have tried to really throw wrenches into my machine, and unfortunately, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really sucks, and people talk smack, and it is what it is. But you know what? That's how you know that you're doing something right.
Right. Right.
That's it. And so one thing, if I could pass something on to people, is be careful about who you're getting into bed with.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing, if you're going in and getting involved intimately with somebody that you don't necessarily know, you don't know what they have. You know what I mean? So you get to know them a little bit better, maybe, or protect yourself. It's the same thing when you're getting into business, or you're working with somebody in terms of any kind of entertainment, escapade. You need to know you get in bed with, because that dog might have fleas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So be very, very careful.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because there are a lot of people who look at people who have made it, and I always say, they see my glory, they don't know my story, because they see you on the other side, and they're like, oh, well, Trina's doing that, I can do it, and it must not be that hard. And you're like, well, you don't see the sacrifices that I made behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
And
That's right.
And people don't realize that, and there's a lot that goes into that. So I'm so glad you said that, because, and especially in this day and age, and I have 2 teenagers, and I'm always telling them that. I'm like, you can't just look at Instagram and YouTube and go, oh, I'm going to do that. I said, because those people are like 1 in a million. You can't base your life off of that. So that's not real, and that's why I try to tell them it's not real. You got to actually put in some work to get things done. You can't just oh, I'm going to turn on the camera and talk every day and then I'm going to be rich. I'm like, no, it doesn't happen like that.
No, it doesn't happen like that. And it takes a long time. People see, just like you said, they see an Instagram or this, that, and the next thing. They see the shiny, happy vision and version of what people want them to see. Me personally, look, the age I am, I crank out on social media. I work it like the rest of them. But I put out, I'm unapologetically myself.
Right.
I'm unapologetically authentic. You know what I mean? I make sure that people know when I'm on social, it's me. I'm responding to you. I'm there talking to you. A lot of people they don't put in that time. They don't put in that effort, and yeah. Okay. I have a good social media following. I do get good, hits on each of my posts, but at the end of the day, it wasn't always like that.
Right.
I had to work it up. Doesn't matter what history I have, who I am, doesn't matter what celebrity you are. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You got to get people to engage.
Right.
I have friends of mine that have done a lot more than me in the industry and have not even a quarter of what I have going on social. So, it's a lot of work. Social media is a full-time job.
It is.
It's a full-time job. So people don't understand, and that's the problem with a lot of the kids today is that they want instant gratification. And see where you and I came up where it took time, and we understood that it took time. And you wanted to watch a TV show. Well, you had to wait those 7 days until the next episode came on. There was no such thing as binge watching. Right. you couldn't record it. If you were lucky. If you were lucky, a little later on, or if you were one of those rich kids, you had the little VCR that you can, wow, you have a VCR. I remember being lucky enough to have a Walkman that recorded, and I taped just so I can hear the thing later on. You know what I mean? But people they don't understand. They want instant gratification. They think it happens right away. And even the most savvy of people, unless they're investing big money into it, it's not happening right away. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's it. You have to still market it and still let people know that it's there.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Because you said you like to be authentic and respond as you could have your person do this. What makes you want to do it yourself?
Because I am a control freak. Because I want people to know that when something's coming out of my social media or that's going out on my website off my blog, or when I'm doing interviews, I want them to know that this is who I am, that I am a real person. I always want it to come off that it's me talking to you. Could I have my wife or my assistant or an intern do my social? Of course. But it's not going to be the same. Even my wife, maybe she'd be able to sit and pull off, talking like me or, write something like me. But I still wouldn't want that because I would feel like I'm cheating the fans.
Right.
I'd be cheating the people that are paying attention. You know what I mean? There are I have plenty of people that like are assistants and so forth, or that are willing to help me with this stuff. But even that, I'm like, I'd rather not do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Than put something out and have somebody else having done it. That's just me. That's just me.
Yeah, no, because I know other celebrities would be like, oh, I just got my person to do that. Right. And then people are like, oh, well, I talked to XYZ, and it's like, you're really talking to their assistant that may have a script or responding the way they think that person will respond. So that is really, that's a good thing. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You look at somebody like a Will Smith, and I love Will Smith. And if you watch TikTok at all, you'll see Will has an incredible TikTok. Well, I as much as I respect him and I love the guy to death. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I love his work. He has a team of people doing all the work for him. Right. That's why he can do all those different cool TikTok videos that go viral because he's got a team of people at a moment's notice. So at the end of the day, when you can hire, if you have the luxury of hiring a whole group of people that a team's going to come in and do all that work for you. Of course, you're going to have that kind of content. And now you have the name value that you can put it out and enough people see it and start, spreading it like wildfire. But now let's look at the flip side of that. Now you have to continue that quality control.
Mhm.
Now he has to continue doing this type of a thing for as long as he's got to ride that TikTok wave. You follow me?
Yep.
Now, so think of how much additional work that is in a schedule such as his. And his schedule, I've got to believe, and again, I don't know him personally, I got to believe his schedule is a little bit crazier than mine, even though mine's pretty damn crazy. But you got to think about it. Like, now he's got to come in and work with all these people and get all the footage that they need in order to do it. So it's a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? And it could go either way. So I can see how it would be, like a difficult thing, on either. Yeah. You know what I mean? On either side. Am I making sense?
No, it does. It makes great sense because, and it's funny you mentioned Will Smith because I follow Jada. And I look at some of her videos and I'm thinking, wow, this was like a whole production crew, because they did because I'm like, you know what, I have some good gear, but I'm not making videos like that. So, they have a production team that, is, right there videoing, editing, splicing it back together, putting the music together. It's like, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, I just got to do the podcast. And I'm like, oh my God.
And they have some 18, 19-year-old kids saying, this is what you got to do next.
Right.
Here's your idea. This is what you're going to do. You're going to get jiggy with it like this on that. You know what I'm saying? Wild, wild west, all that jazz. You know what I mean? Exactly. Parents just don't understand. Whatever. Let's make this hot again. They have people for it. And I have a lot of people. I don't do that with the TikTok. I don't. And I don't have the same type of, I guess, endless money supply that Will Smith has, exactly. but again, I'm not hating on him. I think it's fantastic. So, you've got people like that and, then you have to compete with it. Yeah. So, now here you've got somebody, that does not have that type of name value or, financially, and I have to compete with stuff like that. But in my mind, I'm really not competing with it because he's not. I don't think of anybody else as my competition. I'm myself. I'm my own person, and I'm my own brand. So I kind of do whatever Brimstone wants. Brimstone does, kind of a thing. How stupid does that sound? But it's true. Oh. I walk to the beat of my own drummer.
And I love that because I'm that type of person. And you said something earlier about your branding and how you're always thinking about your brand and your branding. Tell the listeners how important that is, because I know some people, like, especially when they're a small business and they're starting out, they're like, I'll do anything just so I can get my name out there. And that's one of the things that I've started to really, well, I've always been, but I'm really careful about my branding. And, I'm not on the level you are, but I'm always thinking, okay, is this what I want my brand to be associated with? Do I want people to be like, oh, she does this, but yet she was on that, so tell people how important that is, your branding.
Branding is huge. Branding is everything, name value, branding. That's your entire basis of your being, whether that's in entertainment or that's in business. I mean, branding is 100%, and you have to stick with your branding. I actually rebranded myself maybe about a year and a half ago. Not necessarily just myself, but my entire website. Redid everything, overhaul the whole 9 yards to make sure that I had everything being represented the way that my brand needs to be represented. Part of that came because I even though I love the people that were helping with the website, they weren't necessarily doing the job I needed them to do on the website. So I did it myself. I redid my whole site myself. And I made sure that the brand was represented the way the brand should be represented. And the reason why I did that is because when I originally did my site, I was wrestling heavy. That's what I did. I was just a wrestler, and And then later on, everything else started coming in with the comics and that and the next thing. But it just was like very wrestler, and now at this point, the Brimstone brand has obviously curved well away from the pro wrestling, and it now has all these other things that I do. I am an entertainer. I am a celebrity entertainer. A serial entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Celebrity CEO, whatever the hell you want to call it. But my site and my brand has to reflect that.
Yep.
So it has to be sleek, professional, while still having elements of the old school classic Brimstone. But Brimstone is just Will turned up to 20.
Right.
You know what I mean? But everything comes down to colors. You know what I mean? Just like yourself, you have the pinks, the purples, the whites. You know what I mean? It's all about aesthetic.
Right.
So I have the reds, the blacks, the little bit of white. If you go to my site, you'll see in the background, which is a throwback to my original website. You have the crazy what do you call it? Alien looking letters in the background, kind of like glowing in the background here and there. I've taken an element from over 20 years of my websites. There's always an element from each of the sites on the new edition. So this one pays homage to all of them in one way, shape, or form. But I laid it out where when I'm doing business, they can go to the site and go, okay, you know what I mean? I could do business with this guy, as opposed to going, well, this guy's a Satan worshiper, and
or he's only a wrestler, so
he's only a wrestler, and that is an issue that I've had before in the past, where they would be really interested in working with me, and I'd have an issue where they would have preconceived notions because of the way I look, because I have earrings or long hair, or or the name in general, and people, matter of fact, and it's happened with interviews too, where they have a preconceived notion of what they're going to get, and they're obviously wrong, because I'll give you a good interview, and I'll and I'm very well versed in a lot of different things. So, and it's funny because especially you and I met, I believe it was on Podmatch.
Yeah.
Am I correct? So on Podmatch, for example, I put out to a couple a day, just to keep my chops up while I'm not touring, because the world's been shut down for the last year and a half. When I'm touring, I'm doing all the major affiliates. I'm doing the Foxes, your CBS, NBC, ABC, and all that. So I wanted to make sure to keep my chops up during quarantine. So I was keeping myself very busy with interviews and so forth. And that's one. Two, you want to keep your brain going. Two, I like to network. So who knows what you and I are going to do in the future together, or how and now we have new friends. You know what I mean? And then if I can connect with even one person from that, from doing your show, even if it's just you, I've done my job. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm out there, and but a lot of people they have looked, and then they've chosen not to connect with me. And then when I go, I remember that show, and I go and I look at their stats and say, not their stats, their perfect candidate, and I look in there and I go, that's funny, because everything that they have here is me in a nutshell. And the funny thing is that they probably looked at my website or my picture and decided right then and there, oh no, this person's not going to work with me. Funny enough, one of the shows, and I'm not going to name who they are, had that same reaction. And it was funny because normally, Trina, what I do is I'll write them back, because again, normally for this type of thing, normally my assistant or one of my agents handles a lot of the interview stuff. But I'm not lazy. I'm doing it myself right now. And because I want more, or my PR person's doing it, So it's funny. So I was talking, normally when I get them back, where my PR people or what do you call it? My interns, where they would not respond, they go, okay, and take it face value. I go, oh no, well, out of curiosity, I'd like to know why you said no. I'm a perfect match. Perhaps you should, perhaps you could tell me out of curiosity why. So they actually had, they had said, well, we're kind of looking for this and this and this. I said, well, that's great. I actually do this, and this. Here's a link on my website, and went right to my philanthropy and all the charity work that I do. And they looked at that, and then they looked deeper, and they go, can we have you on the show? We made it big. And they apologized to me on air. They apologized on air, apologized. They said, what we did was wrong. We judged you based on the way you look, and what do you call it? And instead of, kind of looking in further. So moral of the story is that a lot of these people, they're missing out on a quality guest simply because they're just basing it on the book, the cover of the book. You know what I mean? And what do you call it? So I think that, people would, everybody, it's a great lesson. It's a great lesson to be learned, is that, the old saying, never judge a book by its cover. You know what I mean? And that's it, and you'll get good quality, discussions or content or whatever you want to, I hope I'm making sense. And I know I kind of went off.
No, I mean, no, it's great.
But branding,
I know it's all relevant, and I really love it because you're right. And for me, like you said, I like networking and I like talking to people. So unless I just think, like you're some crazy person, you say something that like just really like turns me off. I'm like, no. And you're right. Cause like I said, I was reading your bio and I was like, wow, he's doing all of this, oh, this is great. And that was, that's where I'm headed now. But the next question is about you have an entertainment company, correct?
Right.
So tell us exactly, what do you do in that entertainment company? What is the body of it?
So it's Hound Comics Inc., Hound Entertainment Group. And basically what the group is all different functions of, whether it's the comic books, my foodie stuff, it just handles a bunch of different things that I do within the industry. So that's just one of my corporations that handles not only Hound Comics and the clients that we have within Hound Comics, but it also handles a lot of the Brimstone stuff. The Grindhouse Radio handles other parts of the Brimstone stuff, as well as the other, my co-hosts with the Grindhouse Radio and my partners in the business. And it does. We do a lot. Yeah. So it's kind of, certain things have, certain like Hound, it's just so much to go into. So Hound Comics, and everything under the Hound umbrella in the entertainment group, you're handling the comics, the kids' books, the seasonings, the sauces, the chocolate bars, candy, coffee, you know what I'm saying? So it's all of that stuff. Grindhouse Radio is a separate corporation, which is owned by myself and my partners on air. And what do you call it? We're doing not only the Grindhouse Radio, but then the Grindhouse handles careers for each of the cast members, as well as other people that we're taking under. We handle what do you call all publishing of music and yada yada yada. So we do a lot in both. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Without really getting real deep into it, it's just there's a lot that we do there. And Hound Entertainment also is what handles like tour schedules for me. So yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot.
So so what jumped out at me is the seasoning. How did that come into play? I mean, because I don't think I read. Are you like a chef? Do you cook or anything like that?
So I did. So I started doing this thing when I was gonna go back out on tour, when we put together the comic book. So the Brimstone of the Borderhounds comic came out, and then we wound up doing Hound Comics Inc. We incorporated and so forth. And Hound Comics Inc. was handling a bunch of friends of mine, their brands as well, like Peter Mayhew, who was Chewbacca from Star Wars. I was handling Peter's stuff. I was handling friends from Nickelodeon and from Disney, and so that's why we incorporated, and that's why the entertainment umbrella. Okay. So when I was going to go back out on the road and start supporting the comic book and the kids' books, I told my director of operations at the time, Eitan Wish, who I'm still very close with today. I said, listen, Eitan, I can't go back on the road and see nothing. You know what I mean? I can't see trains, planes, and automobiles and inside of an arena or convention center or whatever the hell it is. I said, and see nothing about where I actually am around the world. So he's like, well, what do you want to do? I go, well, I like to eat. He goes, yeah, we know that, Brim. I thanks a lot, Aton. I appreciate it. And then I said, well, I like to talk. He's like, we sure as hell know that too. I'm like, shut up, Aton. So I was like, well, maybe we do a food series. He's like, what do you have in mind? I said, I don't know. I'm the original food hound. I said, we need to, go out. I said, and find like some of the coolest spots when we're on the road. And he's like, okay, it's a start. And we came up with Food Hound Tidbits. And basically it was myself and the crew who would tour with me, you know what I mean? Whether it was my assistants or other, people that were involved in the company, whether they were playing characters or they were artists or, comic book artists or whatever it was that we had underneath our brand, they would be out on the road with us and, they would then come with us to these tidbits. And then each one, I'd always know at least a couple of the other celebs that were at the event because I've been around for a long time. So we'd always bring one of them with us. And so it was like, have a little mix of the two celebrities kind of chatting with the other people that were involved. And you know what I mean? And we went out and we did like diners, drive-ins, and dives.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, you're Guy Fieri.
Yeah. Yeah, except we did it more on the eating side and and we kind of broke into the food and so forth and broke bread. So we took it from the comic book conventions to the tabletops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we went to anywhere from mom and pop hot dog shops to 5-star restaurants. And it really kind of built into something nice because at that point nobody was doing social media wasn't like it is now. We didn't have a million foodie things on social and on YouTube and all that. So we were like huge on YouTube and and of course we weren't doing the numbers like they do now, but there weren't as many devices as there were then. I mean, as they are now then. Yeah. So we did a very good job. We were on that. We were on FoodTube was a thing for a while. We were on, a bunch of different things. And then, my buddy Stan Lee had wanted us on his channel. So, everything was going on with all of that. And, we just came to a crossroads at that point, and that's why we stopped doing the show. But, because we were going to change it because we didn't want to put the IP under that. Well, I had no problem putting our IP under Stan. But, one of the partners I had at that point wanted to do something different. So I came up with Food Hound Bite Sized. And, there was a whole to do with that, not getting into, everything. Right. But it was an issue and we had to kind of put it on the side. But I still own the IP, the Food Hound IP. So that being said, during all this, well before we were in Ohio and I had a line that was a big line, which I was blessed that weekend. I don't know what happened. I must have done something right. But I said, I need to take a break. And people kept coming with these big popcorn bags. I was like, all right, where'd you get it from? Oh, across the way at North Market. All right. So I took a break. I walked across to North Market, which is right across the way from the big convention center there. And when I was over there, it's like a foodie haven.
Wow.
So much to eat and so many different cuisines. And, it's like little shops within this big little like mall type of thing. But it's not a mall. It's like a big, ginormous area of food. So that being said, there was a place called Popcorn Pam's that had all this popcorn. And I was so intrigued by what she was doing because she had all different types of flavors and everything. And she had this really hot popcorn that was so good. And I have a high tolerance. And I was like, wow, that's really good. I'd love to come back and do a Food Hound tidbit here later. So she said, sure. After we got off and done for the weekend, we went over, we started filming the thing with Pam. And we just got into the thing about the seasoning that was being used for the popcorn. And I said to her, I go, man, Pam, where did you get this stuff? Because she had like a hot apple with popcorn and caramel and it was stupid good. I probably should not have eaten as many as I have.
That does sound good.
But she said to me, and she said, yeah, I get that from my buddy Spice Daddy. And I was like, Spice Daddy? She's like, yeah, that's just what I call him. But, he goes in the name K-John and he has his booth over there, but, he wasn't in today. So we went over and we checked the stuff out. And now I personally always look whenever I'm on the road. I'm always looking for the hottest hot sauce because my buddy Ron Thal, who's known as Bumblefoot, he was a guitarist for Guns N' Roses for a very long time. He's with Asia. He does a bunch of stuff. But Bumble, like, is a huge hot sauce fanatic. And, I always try to get him something hotter than he's already had. So, so long story longer. I'm sorry, it's a long-winded one, but you asked. What do you call it? I asked them, I said, do you have anything super hot here? I asked Ron, I said, what's the hottest you've had? And he told me, and I asked them, they said, well, we don't have anything that hot here, but K-John will definitely have something. So I was like, sounds good. And I said, Ron, I'll get back to you. And I hung up, and what do you call it? I set it up with John, a talk where we were driving back from Ohio to the next stop of the tour. And I remember, John and I were on the phone for a couple of hours, and I said, look, I would love to work with you. We do this food show. I've always wanted to do sauces and seasonings, and I know that Ron, would love to do some sauces as well. Would you be interested in doing a couple of celebrity brands? And he's like, absolutely. So we wound up putting together a 3-day or 4-day block. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-day block where the two of us went out to Ohio together, and we met, over at the K-John spot. And when I tell you, it was insane. We were there playing mad scientist
Wow.
for days on end, and we came up with our whole brand of sauces and seasonings. And what do you call it? So mine have and Ron's, both of them have become award-winning big sauce and seasonings. And then from there, what do you call it? John was deciding he was going to start the process of potentially retiring.
Mm-hmm.
So he was selling, and he's known as the godfather of hot sauce. So he was selling his business to a company, I believe it's called Hot Shots, which is a distributor. And but when he was doing that, he had to stop all the co-packing that he was doing with the other with the anybody else like myself and Ron and other people. So so I had taken my stuff off the market, and they'd been off the market for quite some time. And then I wound up hooking up with people that I met from the hot sauce world years later. Not years, I mean, you're talking about a total of a couple of years. But Torchbearer Sauces, who I have known since they had first started. You know what I mean? Because I knew him from John. And what do you call it? They had great products and everything. And I said, hey, we should definitely do something together. We should do a collab sauce together. We wound up doing a collab sauce, Torchstone Thai. Finally launched it at the end of last year, and what do you call it? It's one of the top sauces in their company right now.
Wow.
And I just literally came back at the point of this recording, literally a month or so ago, because I just got back last week. I did this on Thursday and Friday this past week, and I went and we did 2 brand new sauces that we're going to be releasing, another 2 sauces, and a couple of my popular old favorites, sauce and seasoning, we're bringing back as well. So, so that's all coming back. And what do you call it? They're all going to be out in time for the announcement. I don't know if it's been announced at this point yet, where this is airing, so I can't tell you on air.
Okay.
But I can tell you off air what's going on and why all this is specifically relevant.
Okay.
But what do you call it? Yeah. So that being said, that's where the sauces and seasonings came from.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm a
long-winded story.
So I was like, ooh, how did that get started? So I'm like, yes.
It was a lot, and then licensing and all this jazz, and it was a lot of work, but it was well worth it. And I love the fact that I'm in the foodie world for that. And, and from that stems, because I'm always thinking, what's the next natural progression? So, I've already, from that, I steered into, I judge and I host a ton of different foodie events around the country. I do a ton of different things. I work with a bunch of different companies. So yeah, like the foodie world is very near and dear to my heart. And again, I'll tell you stuff, when we're off air.
Okay, so before we get into our questions, I want to ask you about your philanthropy, because you work with the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. You work with young men on education, a lot of great things. You're a SCORE mentor. You're doing, and I love that the most. So Are these passions of yours the reason why you got into them? What made you choose the foundations that you work with? What made you choose them?
I didn't choose anything specifically. I was approached with most of them.
Okay.
The one that I did choose specifically was the Arthritis Foundation. What do you call it? And I chose SCORE also. But everything else was kind of presented to me. I get asked to do a lot of
Okay.
stuff. Unfortunately, I have just so much time in the day and in
Right.
schedules that I can do and I can't do things. And so, I try to do as much as I can in order to give back. It's very important to me to give back. You don't forget where you came from. You don't forget the people who are less fortunate. And for me, if I could just go and put a smile on someone's face, I've done my job. I'm an entertainer. I'm there to make people happy. I'm there to emit emotions, whether that's a positive emotion or a not so positive emotion. That's what I'm there for. So you either love me or you hate me. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Whatever. It's when you have no emotions when I have a problem.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, I've given back. I usually will give back via time, where energy. And one thing that I always say to people, so just to answer that question, then I'll come back to that. But so the answer to the question is, did I have a passion for any of these foundations specifically? Yes, but no. You know what I mean? The answer is yes. I feel for everybody that needs
Right.
help. But no, it wasn't like I need to do
Right.
this or I need to do that. I felt the need to help as many people as I could. I've done, candle lighters for cancer, the young, for young children, Ronald McDonald House. I've done, you know what I mean? The what do you call it? Anything for animals. I've done, there are so many different things because if you can help anybody,
Right.
you know what I mean, you should be doing it. So now that being said, hopefully I did answer the question there. But that being said, if I can leave anybody with anything in terms of and I say this often, if you are passionate about something, and I hope you are. Maybe there's somebody that's in your family or a family friend or somebody, maybe they had cancer or leukemia or something happened with whatever. Find a charity that you can get involved with. You don't have to put any money down because some people don't have money right now, and that's okay. But what we do need is we need good people.
Right.
We need people that have good hearts that want to go out and do something good and put good into the universe, especially with the landscape of the world right now.
Yes.
And what I'd like to say is find that passion, find a charity, donate an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, a day, a week, every single month, and donate that time. It doesn't have to be money. You don't realize how much that little bit of effort helps people. And again, you have you have no idea how great you feel.
Right.
You shouldn't do it to be selfish, but you feel good
Yeah.
doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Knowing that you've made a change, you see a smile on somebody else's face that you put there because you didn't have to spend that time,
Right.
but you did because it was the right thing to do. That is everything.
Yeah.
So I would ask everybody to kind of just try it. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you'll like it. Do you have to do it all the time? No. But just do it a little bit at a time, a little bit here and there. Just show a little love. Put a little love back into the universe. And I guarantee you that good juju will also come back to you.
Amen to that. Yeah. I love it. So, hey, we've been talking a while. We're going to get to the questions because I know you are a
Okay.
busy man. Who or what?
I talk too much.
Who or what
I'm sorry.
motivates you? No, it's great.
Who or what motivates me? My wife and my kids, my family.
Okay. What demotivates you?
Bad people.
Yeah. Yep.
But technically that motivates me also because I never let them get to me.
Yeah. Yeah. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
Oh man, that happens all the time. Have you seen the internet? Basically, what happens is that people talk smack, and then if you have the intelligent people that actually go and take a look and realize that the crap that's said was not necessarily the real deal. And then, obviously either they become a fan or they go, okay, well, I guess this person was a jackass.
Right.
So
whatever. Yeah. What is your fear?
Death.
Okay. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Yeah, gotten rid of a couple of people that didn't belong in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to have put a couple of people outside of my inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't belong there, and they were unfortunately there, or they made their way in somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens.
Is there a time you wish you had not done something?
I stand by almost everything that I do, because if I do something and I did something wrong, then I failed, and I respect that failure, and I'll take that as a feather in my cap, and take those 2 steps back, and use that to learn and move forward. So I pretty much no, I think for the most part I'm pretty much secure in everything that I've done.
Okay. What is your definition of success?
Leaving my legacy. Success is not dollars and cents. Success is what you've accomplished, what you've done, what you're leaving behind. Will people remember you in 10 years after you pass? And I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave for my family, that they won't have to worry. You know what I'm saying? Anything that I do will it will hopefully sustain them for however long. So that's success to me.
Wow. So you being the busy man that you are, how do you recharge?
I don't as much as I should. That's one of the things that I made a mistake, and I should do. There you go. So I swap it. No, what do I do to recharge? I try to spend time, just with my wife, and just kind of we'll veg out on the couch and relax. And usually we'll wind up passing out because we're just so tired. But but that's my kind of I'm happy to be home. You know what I mean? Happy to be home. So normally you got to understand, outside of the past year and a half, I'm usually out and about all the time. So being able to be home is usually a blessing.
Right.
So
Yep.
I guess my recharging the last couple of weeks has been actually getting back into the flow of the real world. So but I'm a homebody. I love to be home with my wife and my kids.
So with everything that you do, what are you awesome at?
I am an awesome dad. That's what I'm awesome at.
Oh, very
I am
good.
an awesome dad. I out of all the years that I've been doing everything that I've done and touring and so forth, I've only missed one important date. And that was Mother's Day. And the reason for it, my wife approved it. She's the one that told me to go because the money was well worth it. So she's like, yeah, we can
Right.
celebrate next week. You go make that money, boo boo.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was that, so but I'm always there, and I try not to miss anything.
Wow. See, now my last question was, what legacy do you want to leave? But you already told us that, so that's great. So
that I was a good person. You know what I mean? That I was, and then I worked hard, and I did things that I didn't need to do. But I did them, and I did them because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
One motivational takeaway: make sure you listen to Trina Talks every single week because she's amazing.
Hey, that's great. I love
you see
that.
What I did there?
You
see what I did there?
I love it. See, that's why you voiceovers, hey, you're hired. You got the job.
The biggest takeaway is just do the right thing, people. You know what I mean? Do the right thing. There's so many people out there that they don't do the right thing, or they don't think that they can to do something or accomplish something. You can always accomplish whatever you put your mind to. You might not necessarily be the best at it, and that's okay. But what do you call it? If you put your 200% in, you will make something happen. You know what I mean? Even if it's going like this, trying to move a pen with your mind, it'll happen. Might not happen well, but it'll wiggle.
In your mind.
So, in your mind.
Oh, my goodness.
But yeah.
Okay, so tell the listeners where you're appearing next, how they can follow you, and all the good stuff.
Well, what do you call it? If you want to get anything, in terms of Brimstone, you could go to therealbrimstone.com. Again, that's therealbrimstone.com. All my social media is there. Everything's there. The products, the, voiceover work, all that jazz. Anything you want to see is there. You can also catch all my podcasts that I do. The main show that I do is the Grindhouse Radio. You can go to thegrindhouseradio.com, or we're also on iHeart and over 30 other networks syndicated worldwide. We do it about 3.5 to 4 million listeners weekly worldwide. So, hopefully you guys will decide to join that, join that group. And we come out new episodes every Thursday night. And it'd be great to have you. That's about it. And social media, guys, please follow and have conversations with me. Engage. If you engage with me, I will engage back.
Don't be surprised if you see me, show up and like,
please.
Hey, what's up, Brim?
I hope, please, I beg of you. I would love that. What's funny is that a lot of people say they're going to do it and then they don't. But if you do, I will obviously be right there back and forth with you. Sweet. And that's the thing about building a community and building a group of people that are interested in just being good to one another. You know what I mean? So we all grow if we all help each other, right?
Exactly. Well, Brim, thank you for being on the show, taking time out of your busy schedule. I had fun talking with you, and I just really appreciate you being on.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, Trina. You've been amazing, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, we will. If you like Trina Talk Podcast, please don't forget to go out to iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a review. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their life? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving, because success is a journey, not a destination.